Hi and welcome. Today we're at Virginia State University's Randolph Farm. We're here with Susan Cheek. Susan manages the horticulture demonstration for the small farm group here at VSU. And we're going to talk about transplants. Now this time of year, most of you are thinking about, should I make transplants? Should I buy them? And especially if you've got a greenhouse or a sunroom or grow lights, you can really make some nice transplants. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Susan, what are some things that people need to think about? Do they need to plan far in advance of when they're going to plant their transplants into the ground?
They do. I would think you want to start your plants 4 to 8 weeks before you want to actually put them in the ground, or buy them large enough to put in the ground.
Okay, that makes sense. And I noticed when you look at some of these different cell packs and containers, they're all different sizes.
Right.
Is there an optimum size, or are these pretty normal?
The smaller you go, the smaller the plant's going to be. So these guys are pretty small. Those are going to be 72 count cells. These are probably 48 cell counts. Okay. You're going to probably most often see something along this or this in your local hardware store or garden center.
Okay. I noticed these here. Is it a good idea to always invest in something like this just to mark your transplant so you know what they are?
I definitely would. There's a lot of plants that look very, very similar when they're small.
That's right. It's a good investment so you don't get mixed up. Now, these are grown. We're in a nice greenhouse now, and some people might have a greenhouse. The plants are given plenty of water, warm temperatures, and they really have lush growth. Now, do you want to put these directly out into the garden at this when they're ready?
No, you need to do what's called hardening them off for about 2 weeks. You're going to take them down in the day, take them outside so they get used to that wind, the rain, a little bit cooler temperatures. Bring them back in at night. Just like your animals, you don't want them outside when it gets that cold. The plants don't want it that cold either.
Okay. So basically, though, this just gets them ready. Gets them ready to really what are harsh conditions compared to these greenhouse conditions, right?
Right.
So whether you make your own or maybe even if you buy them at a garden center, sometimes they're not hardened off. You might want to just get them out, get them exposed to wind and sunlight, because it's a lot different than in here.
I'd say even from a garden center, at least 1 week, harden them off before you put them in the ground.
Now, Susan, is there a danger in some of these containers of getting too root bound?
There is, most definitely. And what you're going to find from some greenhouse plants is they've held them too long. So when you see those discount racks, they're probably root bound. And this is how your plant's going to look if it's root bound.
Okay.
What I would do is either take a knife or your hands and just break that root up a little bit before you plant it. That'll give it a chance to stretch out and grow the way you want it to grow in the ground.
Okay. Well, let's look at that, Susan. Let's plant one of these, maybe in this container right here. And I know that whether you're doing it in the ground or you're doing it in a container like this, inside we're using this media, this soilless media. And so you're going to fill your container up almost to the top, I'm guessing, right?
I would. At least 3/4 of the way.
Right.
And
so
then
that root bound one.
You're going to take this and break it up a little bit.
Okay. And you're not hurting the roots really, are you?
It's not hurting the roots a bit. It's just let them stretch out. You're going to make a little hole in the middle. And you want to plant it right about level with the top of the transplants. If you put this too far down, you're going to have problems with things like dampen off, or the moisture is going to have issues for your plants.
Okay. So whether you're outside in the garden in normal soil or this type of media, you want to kind of level it off with where it's at from the container.
Right.
And how about watering? I know this material, it dries out quickly, a little bit more than some soil. So if you're going to do container gardening, you want to water it pretty often?
Right.
Okay. And the same thing, I guess, with the soil. Once you put the transplant in, you want to get some water to it.
I would say as soon as you plant, you want to water for sure for the first 2 weeks to let your plants get established, whether they're in pots or whether they're outside. If you're in a pot, you're going to pretty much have to water most every day. Just check it. You don't want it wet. You want it moist.
Okay. Well, these are great tips. I think if people were to follow a few of these things, they would be successful with their plants.
I think so, too.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today about some of these tips that can help people with their transplants. Well, for more information about transplants, hardening off, please contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins, and we'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.